Our guest today is a legal eagle. She is partner at Chueu Attorneys, but she's also non-executive member of the Council of the University of Cape Town, where she's in charge of the Human Resources Committee. But she has a long, illustrious record in the media industry, in the regulatory industry. She is none other than Pheladi Gwangwa. Pheladi, welcome. Have I done justice to the journey you've traveled from Malebo High School?
Yes, you have. Thank you for that generous introduction. It's really
Well,
appreciated.
I've got to confess that you are responsible, among other things, for my media career. You were the manager, the station manager for a long time at 702. Please explain to me how a lawyer ends up managing a radio station. How did you end up at 702?
Well, that's why you have lawyers everywhere. If you look in business, if you look in academia, if you look anywhere,
Yeah.
you'll find lawyers. So that just goes to show you that we're champions. But really, I studied law at University of Teflop. We were there together. You were my leader in the SRC. I then went to vets, practiced as a lawyer at the state attorney. And then at some point, I heard about an organization called the Independent Broadcasting Authority, or what was then the IBA. And it was the first time that I got to know and understand that actually you can have a broadcaster who's an operator, and you can have the referee,
Yeah.
which is the regulator. And whereas before that, you had the SABC, which was the player, the referee, the commentator, and all of that. So I took an interest in that, and I ended up working at the IBA in the regulatory position. Fast forward many years later, I then went to invest at a telecommunications company, and then I ended up at Prime Media, where I was regulatory affairs manager, or the person advising them on legal matters. And because I'm a lawyer, I took an interest in 702 because of the potential that the platform had. It was a platform for talk, so I saw the good work that it was doing in the community, and that's how I became station manager.
Right. But you have since moved on, and now you are on the Council of the University of Cape Town. Just when transformation is such a big issue, if I look at your career, you've always lived at the cusp or the growing edge of transformation. Is that why you would have been attractive to the recruiters at the University of Cape Town? After all, they have an African woman as their vice chancellor.
Yes, I would believe so. And I am, entering UCT at a very interesting time when they have a woman who is, a vice chancellor or a CEO. I love her energy. I love the work that she's put in terms of building the university, in terms of building her executive. So when the Tumamina call came for me to be on the UCT council, I did not hesitate one bit.
But now we are in Women's Month here in South Africa, and you and I are too young to remember because we were not there in 1956. But August 9th is a very important holiday. The women of 1956 were marching against lots of injustices. If Pheladi Gwangwa is marching today, what are the issues she's putting on the table that need urgent attention?
I would have loved for Pheladi to be marching for the economic, emancipation of the women in South Africa. But the unfortunate thing in our society is that today Pheladi would be marching for the, physical integrity of the women in South Africa. Pheladi would be marching to say, my body is not your crime scene, which is really, really very sad. Personal integrity of a person should not be what we're fighting for in this democracy more than 2 decades later. But that's what Pheladi would be fighting for. Pheladi would be making sure that women are safe. Pheladi would be making sure that women have a voice and that it's taken seriously.
But what do you think we need to do to tackle gender-based violence once and for all? One thing that you would start with that you believe could take us the farthest down the road?
Victor, for a very long time, I thought that the thing to do would be to speak to the women, to empower them. You know, part of what I do is I'm a patron of an organization called FOTET, which means the future of the African daughter. So for a very long time, I was talking to our African daughters, telling them, you know, that they need to aim high, that, you know, the world is their oyster, that a no means no for them. But that really is not yielding any results. I think now we really should be focusing on the men, making them
Right.
see that what they're doing is wrong, and really getting them to understand what violation means. Because for some people out there, I don't hit you, I don't throw an iron at you, so what are you complaining about? But actually, mental abuse and emotional abuse is actually far more painful because the scars are not visible. You can't go to any hospital where there would be a bandage put on you. Basically, you must just heal yourself and go through that by yourself. So that's what I would really be doing. I would be getting men around the table and getting them to be part of the solution instead of excluding them.
Amazing how common this theme is of talking to men. And as a man myself, having raised two boys, I understand that we cannot achieve it without the men being involved. But now let's move into the corporate world where you have been since you've qualified, even when you were in the regulatory framework at the regulatory authority. How are we doing in the sense of getting women to be on par with men?
We're not doing good at all. You know, just to be quite honest, we need to get women to really be involved in the engineering space, in the accounting space, where they can really take and use their experience to make more meaningful contribution instead of you know, the soft skills that we have been giving women, and which is not something to be sneezed at. But I just think that women should really be sitting at the table and making decisions where it matters most. They should be, you know, in the water board, discussing and talking about the infrastructure of water infrastructure. How do we get water delivered to communities? Because it is the women who use that space, and therefore, you know, it should be other women with an understanding who know how best to deploy that kind of infrastructure.
But finally, you are a lawyer. Our legal system, particularly the judiciary, considering all the matters that are needed, that need attention on the social sphere, in the economic sphere with regard to gender-based violence, do you believe that our judiciary is well equipped and well positioned and is effective in addressing what is urgent today?
So two things that I will address, and the first one is how we women get treated just in the justice system, even before we got to the judiciary, just how female candidate attorneys get treated to this day. I mean, I did my articles more than 20 years ago. Those issues were prevalent, and it's very sad that some 30, 25 odd years, we still have young female candidate attorneys who are really put in untenable situations. And we can't just leave it at writing reports, talking about them at conferences, and then putting those reports back in the drawers. We need to implement the kind of initiatives, you know, and recommendations that come out of that. And then secondly, we also need to address the judiciary. I mean, for me to read you know, a judgment of a magistrate somewhere in KZN or some other corner who makes a judgment that that really boggles the mind. So we really need to also liberate the mind of our own judiciary to say it should actually start with them and cascade down. When a woman goes to the point that you know, as far as even taking themselves through the legal process, because it's very humiliating. Let's not forget, you know, what you know, the young lady Cheryl went through in that case in PE. You know, the kind of cross-examination that she went through. So it's very humiliating. So for a woman to take herself through that humiliating experience, only for a judicial officer to you know, to nullify that, it really is a sad state of affairs for us.
All right, Pheladi Gwangwa, partner at Chueu Attorneys, thank you very much for joining us.
Ke a leboga, Kgomoeswa.